You're now tuning in to Fatima Bay, the MindShifter. Get ready to shift your thinking and turn it into success.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about pound cake. Now, I don't know about you, but I love pound cake. Now, many of you may have a different version of pound cake in your mind when I say that. Some people use lemon, some people use almond extract, which is my preference. Some people use vanilla, some people add cinnamon, some people who use cream cheese, sour cream, heavy cream, blah, blah, blah. There are many, many, many different versions of pound cake out there. But for the sake of example today, I am only going to discuss good old-fashioned classic original pound cake. Now, do you know why they initially called it pound cake? By the way, stay with me here. You might be a little hungry at the end of the segment, but you'll also be spiritually fed. So, good old-fashioned pound cake is actually called pound cake because initially it was a pound of each ingredient to make the cake. Now, there are only 4 basic ingredients in pound cake. And again, I'm not talking about the version you may know, but the version of, the original pound cake, just your classic. There are only 4 main ingredients, 4 ingredients, period. And that's butter, a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of eggs, and a pound of flour. Now, here's the thing about pound cake. If you take your ingredients, they must be done in the correct order in order to make the pound cake. Now, you must first have the butter at room temperature. You can't have the butter hard. It won't work. You can't melt the butter down and pour it in. It also won't work. The texture will not be correct. You will not come out with pound cake. You'll come out with something else, but it won't be some good old-fashioned pound cake. Once you cream together the butter and sugar, you're going to get a light, fluffy texture. Then you have to beat in the eggs one at a time, 1 or 2 at a time. You must do it in that order. If you dump them all in at once, again, you're not going to get the texture needed to get the result that we're looking for. And then the flour, you can't just dump all the flour in at once. You have to take the flour and add it in 1 cup at a time, or 3/4 of a cup at a time, or somewhere thereabouts. You add it in bit by bit. Most of the time when people make pound cake, they measure the flour, but they're not measuring how much they put in at a time. They're simply putting it in by eyeball and, whipping it together till you get this perfect consistency that you can then pour into your greased baking dish. Now, with pound cake, if you leave any of those ingredients out, you'll get something, but it won't be pound cake. You might get a chewy, sticky, yucky mess, but you won't get pound cake. Pound cake today represents our lives. It represents solutions. Pound cake is very related to our lives. So pound cake in my lesson today represents solutions. How often are you looking for your solutions, but you're not using the right ingredients? Ah, yes. Sometimes we are looking for solutions. We're looking for a pound cake when we're only using flour. Now, the thing is, you can't just have the right ingredients. You must also put those ingredients in the right order. Now, I just described to you the method of putting together those ingredients. If you were to do any of those ingredients out of order, your end result would not be your goal, which is to get the perfect pound cake. You'll get something, but it won't be what you were going for. And this often happens in life. We're looking for the perfect solution to a problem. And we have all the right ingredients. And we're like, well, why isn't this working? Perhaps it's because you're doing them out of order. The other part about baking a cake is timing. Now, you have to put the cake in the oven for a certain amount of time and at a certain temperature. Now, here's the thing, if you're not a baker, that you probably don't realize. You can use a bundt cake pan, which is, pretty standard, pretty typical, pretty classic, pretty traditional. Or you might decide that you want to make a pound cake in a round pan, or a cake loaf pan, or a square pan. The truth is, pound cake can be made in any of those pans, and they'll all come out to be pound cake. But the difference is, between each of those pans, you have to adjust your time. Depending on how big the pan is and how deep or how narrow it is, you may have to increase or decrease your temperature. But mostly you won't have to change the temperature, you'll have to change how long you leave it in. Again, there are different variances in that depending on what kind of pan you use. Now, why am I mentioning that? Because very often we have all the ingredients for the solution. We put them together in the right way, but then we put them in the oven at the wrong temperature or with the wrong time. Yes, timing. Timing is so important in almost every aspect of life. But when it comes to your solutions, sometimes you have all the right ingredients, but you're putting them together at the wrong time, or you're throwing them at people at the wrong time. You want to come at people with something that you have that's good for them, but you're coming at them when they're grieving. Wrong time. You have the solution for XYZ, but you're coming at them when it's too late. Wrong time. Now, I'm saying that because this is a principle. And if you follow me at all, you know that I teach principles, not just details. I teach principles, and then you can apply them to your details. And the principle here is that timing is everything. So, when you put your cake in the oven, it's got to be at the right time. If you leave it in for too long, you're going to get rock hard mess. Or if you don't put the ingredients in correctly, you may get a chewy mess, but it won't be pound cake. You leave it in for too little, you might get something more pudding-like instead of the cake that you're looking for. And again, your solution that you're looking for. Whether it's the solution for a neighborhood in your city, are you putting together the right ingredients and presenting them at the right time? Because sometimes you have all the ingredients you need for success, but you're not putting it together the right way. I'm saying all of this because, as you know, everything I say is about planting thought seeds. And I want to plant these thought seeds in your head today. What are you looking for? What are the solutions that you're looking for? What is it you're trying to fix? Whether it's personal, whether it's a relationship in your life, whether it's how to get ahead with your career goals, whether it's how to fix an issue in your government, in your city, whether it's how to fix an issue in your church, in your school district, whatever it is, this principle applies to all of us in some kind of way. What is it that you're looking for? Do you have the right ingredients, first of all? And if you don't know the answer to that, it is okay to seek help because you might not know it on your own. And sometimes you have to listen to several people to kind of get it. You can't fix the issues in your city listening to one person. You need to listen to several people and get the perspectives of get the vision from several different perspectives in order to get the bigger picture. And I know some of you are listening right now who work as social workers or work in the government. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You see what's needed, but people aren't putting them together in the right way because maybe they're not listening, or maybe they just haven't been presented the right way. But what is it you're looking for? What is it you're trying to solve? Do you have the right ingredients and you're putting them together the right way, but you're presenting it at the wrong time? Or you're presenting it in front of the wrong people? These are all things I want you to think about. Let me tell you something. Every cook and every baker, before someone writes a cookbook, they perfect their recipes. No one ever just throws a cookbook out there and they only try their recipes once. I have never heard of that, and I don't think I ever will. Every recipe is out there because it's been perfected. But how it gets perfected, guess what? Guess how it gets perfected? Trial and error. You try to put those ingredients together. It didn't come out right. Let me try adding one less egg and see what that comes out to be. All right, let me try adding a half cup more flour. All right, let me try adding one more egg, see how that comes out. Let me add a little cream instead. How does that come out? So forth and so on. You're going to get different results every time you change those ingredients. But eventually you will find those right ingredients. Some of the reasons you are not finding the solution that you're looking for is because you stopped trying when it didn't work the first 2, 3, 4, 10 times. So what? Keep going. You will eventually master that recipe, but you can't do it if you quit after the first couple of tries. Think I am talking to somebody right now. You cannot quit because your recipe didn't work. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right ingredients. You have to check to see if you're putting them together right, if you're putting it together at the right time, if you're presenting it the right way, if you're doing it the right way. And if it's not working, then you need to look at your ingredients or look at how you're doing it. Examine and try again. And I promise you, if you keep examining and you keep trying again and you don't give up, you will find the solution. You will make your perfect pound cake. But you have to decide that you're not going to give up and you're going to keep trying that recipe. And you're going to keep going until you get it right. Now, I'm going to use an example from my own self. Those of you that already know me probably already know that I am an internationally awarded seamstress and I'm a sewing instructor. When I'm teaching my sewing students, one of the principles that I teach them the very first day of class, especially in Sewing 101, is practice makes perfect. So many students, because they didn't sew it perfect the first time, they want to get discouraged. And I explain to them, so what? I didn't sew perfect when I was first starting to sew either. I was sewed just like you. But you know what? I kept practicing and practicing and trying and figuring out what worked and what didn't. And eventually, I'm a master seamstress now. You can be a master at whatever it is you are trying to master, but you have to not give up first. You have to look at what is going to make your pound cake perfect. How do I make my perfect pound cake? See, you have to not give up. You have to keep going. And just like I became a master seamstress eventually, even when I didn't have confidence in myself, and trust me, I had zero confidence in myself, but I was determined and I kept going. And if you are determined to reach your solution, whether it be personal, whether it be business, whether it be political, whether it be at your church, whatever it is, your determination is what's going to help you get there. And it's okay to have insight from others to help you get there, because quite honestly, you need it. Remember, it takes 4 ingredients to make a pound cake. You can never make it with just one. And for those of you that think every problem in the world is because of one thing, I'm especially talking to you because your stinking thinking is very backwards, and that's why you're not coming up with any solutions. It's never just one ingredient. Never, ever, ever is any solution to anything on this earth ever just one ingredient. Ever. It's never just one thing. It might be mostly one thing. It might be mostly 2 things, but it's never, ever one thing only. So when you're looking at something, you're like, well, I have flour. Why isn't this turning into cake? Make sure you have your butter, your eggs, and your sugar too. My hopes are that the next time you look at, you eat, or you think about pound cake, you examine yourself and say, do I have all the ingredients? Have I put them together the right way? I just want you to think about that. You've been listening to Fatima Bay, the Mind Shifter. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me at radio@fatimabay.com. That's radio@fatimabey.com. And again, thank you for listening.
Tune in next week for another segment of Fatima Bay, the Mind Shifter. For more of her teachings, subscribe to her YouTube channel at Fatima Bay, the Mind Shifter.